Welcome. Seeing Blue here. This is the Build Along Code Smarter, Not Harder with your AI assistant. Today I want to more or less just show you guys what I do on a daily basis as I'm writing code. There's actually three kind of tiers to this, and it's all thanks to a couple of tools. One, obviously, we'll be working in the desktop editor specifically, but we'll be using Visual Studio Code, which is the recommended code editor or IDE, right, for Horizon Worlds. Or if you guys didn't know, eventually it's just going to be called Worlds. So we're in the middle of that transition, so I'm not sure what to call it right now. But in any case, Visual Studio Code. And then there's an extension within code that we'll be downloading and using along with our build along today. That's going to be, if you want to look for it ahead of time, it's called Copilot. Two of them will pop up. You'll just grab the first one, it'll grab both of them, and that's all you need. If you've got a GitHub account, go ahead and get signed in. If you don't, you might go ahead and create one. GitHub's a great tool, especially if you're interested in programming. We're going to be probably using it a lot going forward. Just a little bit of cleanup before we get started real quick. Not much. You guys have probably seen this before already as well. So, the session is being recorded. We'll try to stay muted. I'll keep an active eye on chat. I don't mind you guys speaking up, but for the most part, we'll just keep volume down unless we need to. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So definitely be active, and then don't forget about the survey at the end. Those are the things that I'm really concerned about the most. Thanks to one of our mentors now, Matt Tellis, he has a collection of snippets, and these are various TypeScripts that I reference all the time when I forget how to do something. And we're also going to use this in our examples today. So we're going to find related scripts in here and feed it to the AI in an effort to get it to do what we want. So we're going to use this as priming data. And another one is the open source version of the Horizon World Creator Manual. And I use this a lot for priming data as well. When talking to the AI about a Horizon specific topic, I might reference a link related to that topic in my conversation. And so those are, but even if I wasn't using AI to write my scripts, these are two still very, very good resources that I would bookmark as a creator and would use on a regular basis. So if you don't take anything else away from today and you didn't have one of these, I think this will help you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Snippets are very nice. So I've got a world that I went ahead and fired up here, and like I said, I was just playing around with a couple of ideas before we got started today. But we're going to do this mostly live. I don't normally use these two things in conjunction, but I'm going to try it today because in a recent update, the Gen AI TypeScript tool, the Llama version, got an upgrade to, I think it's Llama 4, I believe is the version number we're at. And I've done a couple of demonstrations live in workshops already where we played around and where we built scripts with the TypeScript Gen AI. And I found more success in the Llama version than I did the Specialist personally. But now even now that they've upgraded it to the Llama 4, since I've done those demonstrations, it's probably even better. It's probably would do a lot better. And so we might play around with using one AI to help us with the other one, because we'll do most of our work today in Visual Studio. I prefer to use the AIs that are built into the Visual Studio, but that doesn't mean that we can't also use Llama to our advantage, potentially even simultaneously. So we're going to play around with that idea today. Now, I think we were pretty well decided on doing a shooting game, and there were a couple of votes for laser tag. And although this don't look much like a laser tag weapon, I was curious about the idea only because of the projectile type, right? Because for a laser tag, I kind of want to shoot a laser. I kind of want to see that beam as opposed like it was Star Wars. And so I was imagining like how difficult that might be to just do that beam. But I think that's just overcomplicating things for today, to be honest with you. We'll just do a regular projectile. We'll see how far we can get into it. But the main focus here is just the process, not really the end goal. So I pulled this one out from the asset library. It was the rifle right here. It just happened to be on top. I did delete the scripts from it. So if we select it, no script attached. The only things we really have are the model for the weapon itself. There's a effects up here for a muzzle flash. It's not much of a flash, it's more like a muzzle puff. What about it? Should it be a hit spark? Like, doesn't that make more sense? Yeah, I don't know why that was set to smoke. Bullet trace. So, wait, this is our launcher. Oh, okay. Launcher's already here. Cool. Looks like they're using a trail. So they got tracers on them. Awesome. And then there were several sound effects. I don't know how many of these were used, but we can play around with them. So we've already got our rifle here kind of set up for us. It looks like grab points are already good. If I come into the world, I don't know if I have to play, probably not in desktop editor. Oh, can't grab at the moment. That might be a bug. Let's check the status of rifle. It is grabbable. Who can grab is set to anyone. Interesting, I can't grab. Glidable. Glidable. Yeah. May have to leave and come back. See why we can't grab right now. But let's go ahead and get into some of the code as well. Even if we can't grab, it's not even really a big deal for today. We just won't be able to test what we wrote, but so as long as we don't have any errors and it compiles, should be good. But let's try this grab one more time. World's running. Preview. There we go. Yeah, so this is good. It doesn't do anything, but like the grab points are all set up and stuff. We don't have to waste time with any of that. All right. So we'll go ahead and create a script here. We're just going to call it gun. That was actually the name of the script that came with this weapon by default. Anyway, all right, so I've got Visual Studio here. Kind of neat. Okay, there it goes. And if you haven't already, you can search for Copilot under your extensions. And I don't think zooming in here. Oh yeah, it'll help. So like I said, when you search for Copilot, you're going to get the Copilot version, and then you're going to get Copilot Chat. So just install this version. It'll come with chat. You'll know it's installed. It'll actually probably try to ask you to log in to GitHub. Like I said, recommend going ahead and stepping through that process. You can use Copilot with the free version. To be honest with you, I've paid for it for so long, I'm not sure what the difference is between my version and the free anymore. So what I'm going to show you probably starts in free and then steps into paid, if I had to guess, to be honest with you. But once it's installed, you actually will get an icon up here in the upper right. So this is your Copilot chat icon. We hit the drop down. There's some options here. Most of the time, I just click the face. And that opens chat to the right side of our screen. I don't need it so big though, so we'll scale that down just a little bit. And I don't need this so big either, to be honest with you. Actually, I don't even need it today. Get out of here. Now, a few things I want to draw your attention to. If you've never used Copilot, there's probably other ways to use this. I probably don't use it to the full extent. I'm just showing you the things that I use on a daily basis. If someone in here does use it and they have suggestions, I recommend dropping them in chat as we go. We'll be super grateful and we'll all just kind of share our best tips, right? Is this free or the paid one? Personally, Ebony, this is the paid one. It's the one that I use. But I think we're going to start out using the free functions first. And so like some of this is going to apply, and then I think we're going to probably get into paid stuff a little later on. So adding context is super important. I use this a lot. Several ways to add context. If we just click it, we've got some options here. Open editor is anything that is open up through the top. So any scripts that are open, that'll add those scripts as context. And context, that's like priming the AI with data or things that it can reference as it's writing or suggesting, depending on how we're using it. One thing I like to do, or one thing I did originally, and I even today I take different approaches because I like to see how they work out. I like to see how some of them affect the responses differently. But you can right-click Horizon Core or any of the APIs that you might have imported into your project, and you can go to definition. And if I leave this page, I expected that to close. Guess not. Anyway, this is the, don't worry about the errors, don't matter. But this is the definition file for the Horizon Core library. And so I could add like that file itself as context. I could also say open editors. That also added it as context because it's an open tab. I could have also said files and folders. And if I say types, types is the folder that comes with every world that contains not only that core definition file, but all the other definition files as well. So, all of these are pretty much relevant to developing. You don't ever really need to know what's in them, but it's good for the AI to know if it's going to suggest code for us. So really what we need here is like the types folder and the guns folder to kind of get started. Yeah. Like I said, several ways to do that. So adding context through open editors, through files and folders. Personally, I've never used instructions, problems, symbols, screenshot window. I know tools is related to, well, I think the one that's most important to me and probably everyone here is like the search GitHub repository and maybe even fetch web page potentially. But I think that's only if you're using ask or edit. If you're using agent, which agent may be paid, I think you don't even have to worry about tools. They're automatically included. But let's do a little bit of experimenting with before we actually start the experimenting, right? A couple more things. I want to, of course, start voice chat. Yeah, whatever. Chat with extension. Okay. At GitHub, get answers grounded in web search, code search, and your enterprise's knowledge base. Cool. So you can reference GitHub in your request. I never actually used it. Still learning a lot of this as we go, but I just want to show you what I do know. I already showed you this, but I want to touch on it. I know ask is free, and by default, ask is just basically talking with the AIs, and the AIs have your code as reference for you to talk about. And so everything will take place over here in this chat window. you can select the different AIs as well. So there's several by default, or you can actually modify and bring in like some different models potentially. Or like I actually pay for Gemini, and so I gave it my Gemini key, and then I can have access to some of the more advanced Gemini models, for example. But by default, I think it uses is someone tell me, is 4.1 the latest? Because I would think I would want 4.1 if it was available for free, right? Because I think it was using 4.0 by default. Yeah, let's put it on 4.1 for now. I typically will use Gemini, but let's see what 4.1 does. I've not used it yet. Drop down here, send to dispatch. I don't use those. I don't know. To be honest with you, let's stick to what we do now. If we use edit, basically edit, I need this out of my way now. There we go. So edit's the same thing as ask, but now it kind of has the ability to make changes to your code. So I find it'll behave in one of two ways. Sometimes it'll go ahead and make the changes. Sometimes it'll show you the suggestions, and then like you can click a button and it'll make the changes. I'm not sure what causes it to do one or the other, but it'll do one or the other. It'll do it automatically and then let you kind of decide whether to keep it or not keep it, or it'll just suggest them in the chat window and then you can apply it. Then you can decide to keep it or not keep it. The agent is kind of interesting, and it's what I've been using the most here lately. And if we have time at the end, I might show you guys, but I just recently experimented with writing an entire game without writing any code. Using agent, I told it and gave it references to everything that it needed and that I wanted. And it has so far wrote a game from start to finish on its own. And so agent is like this multi-step version of edit. And so if edit edits our code automatically, agent edits our code automatically, evaluates the changes, determines how aligned it is with the goal, and then does it again and continues this process until it's satisfied with the results. And there's even times where it like stops and it's like, okay, I can't fix these errors. Can you help me? And then I will go in and like, yeah, this is what you need to do in this situation and yada, yada. Fix the errors. There, they're fixed. It learns from those fixes. And then it continues about its merry way, writing more code. I'm on the fence, like step in the philosophical box for a moment. And it's like, I'm kind of on the fence about this whole thing. On one side, it's like, you should definitely be able to write code on your own. If I show you how to write code with agent, it's a very steep slope to basically like not learning code at all and asking agent to do everything for you. And that's kind of crippling for a beginner. I benefit so well because I understand enough of the language to be able to not only like speak intelligently with the AI and get back intelligent responses as a result, but also like be able to identify when it makes a mistake and be able to fix those mistakes and be like, okay, here, Copilot, like this is what you did wrong. Try this from going forward from now on. And I think that's where the real magic lies. I don't condone like using it as a crutch if you are not super comfortable with like writing code on your own. But I am a fan of it like making your job faster. And that's essentially a lot of what it has done for me personally is made my job faster. And I'm like, we drive cars because it's faster than walking. So I think we're in the same way, we're going to use AI to assist us because it's faster than doing it ourselves. But again, reiterating the fact that we still need that knowledge. So getting started here, we'll get off for a little side tangent and actually write some code and see this thing in action for once. What do we want to So like I said, we're doing this live, and we want to sort of prime it. And we did kind of prime it with our current script, which is a basic template, and then a reference to our type files. I typically don't reference my context, um, but I mean, we can, it doesn't hurt. So we could say gun.ts is a basic Horizon component. That's essentially what it is. And we could say the types folder contains Horizon, or we'll just say Horizon specific definitions. And so we'll kind of start this way. And I want to reference our launcher. I know that this weapon has a launcher, so that's what's going to be firing their projectile. And I know I'm going to have to reference it in my script. So I'm going to try to go ahead and mention it in this first dialogue here. And this is where like understanding TypeScript becomes my advantage, because I could describe this launcher in several different ways. I could say launcher is a gizmo that fires projectile when player pulls the trigger. That's really relatively, it gets the point across. I think most creators are going to know what you mean. The AI might not have a full picture, and it's kind of vague. But as a creator and as someone who understands the API a little bit and the components that we build with, I can actually describe this in a little more detail. And I can say something more along the lines of I think it's called a projectile launcher gizmo as a props definition with, I may need to specify this. I just happen to already know this because I've wrote scripts like this before, right? An entity type. So I'm kind of wondering how far to go with this, because I'm thinking about trying to decide whether or not I should, because by default, like I don't have a pre-start here. Typically, I would use my pre-start to connect to events like on weapon grab, on trigger pull, might even listen to events on the launcher for the projectile to hit stuff. Maybe. Probably should do that somewhere else, but whatever. And I would think if I'm going to ask it to go so far as to write my pre-start, I might want to like reference the pre-start in the creator manual or something, somewhere, so it has something to know like what pre-start means. Or as a fairly adept developer, I might just go ahead and write some of the code for it. And honestly, the more work that I can do, the more proper code that I can write, the better that it gets. Starting out on a script, honestly, in general, it doesn't do great. I find that if I will write the most of the script, and then if I get to a part that is mundane or even hard, I just don't feel like taking the time to research how to do it properly. And I know AI like probably knows how to do it. I just got to ask. Like I'm just going to ask anymore if it can do the thing, to be honest with you. It's faster. But again, I may prime it with existing information. If I know how to write an event where, and actually I'm wondering why Copilot's not already like making suggestions as I'm typing, but where you at today, Copilot? I can't believe Copilot's making me type all this out manually right now. It's ridiculous. So I need many more events, but like I was saying, um, do what you know to start, and that's going to help. So I'll write, like I said, I need more of these, but I'll write a basic one. Seriously, I don't know. Usually Copilot's already like wrote this for me. Oh wait, what I do wrong? I gotta define this, right? Okay. All right, so I did write some basics, and then let's move on to back to our prompt over here. So reference the launcher as a prompt definition with an entity type. Connect to the code block events. And let's just actually give it a little help by saying hz.codeblockEvents, because I know that's what it's going to have to do in order to reference. And so I could go ahead and even as far as to say connect to the hz.codeblockEvents dot on trigger down event, I think is what it's called. And launch a projectile from the projectile launcher. So I think this is significantly detailed enough, and also like not detailed enough at the same time. I could continue going with more details here, but I want to see like what it can do with what I've given it so far. So let's see, just based on all the context, we've got it on ask. Okay, let's see what the results of this are. And so again, I think it's really just going to behave a lot like edit without the actual editing of the script in real time, in the sense that it's going to give me some scripts back. And then there's always some buttons right here. And this one, I use this one here a lot. It lets me apply it to my script if I decide that it's something that I want. But let's kind of review it a little bit after I grab another drink. So we didn't change anything on the first couple of lines. We did add the projectile launcher as a props definition. We did give it a type as an entity. That's perfect. Oh, get out of my way. That's exactly what I would expect it to do. Pre-start still here. Our connect. Okay, so that's the on down trigger. This is the start that I did. So it put in its own event, connected it to this entity, connected to the on trigger down, referenced the player, passed it to a local method here. Nothing in start, still nothing in grab start. So on trigger down, we got the player, we're referencing a launcher, making sure the launcher is truthy, and then doing the launch. So at first glance, I don't see any problems with this, and I think it's going to work. I'm going to apply this to my script, and we're going to try it. So, like I said, we'll just hit apply to gun. Give it a second to do its thing. Neat trick. By the way, red doesn't mean there's an error. Red just means that's what was removed. Although we do have an error here. So we are going to have to fix this. And that's probably our fault. Because when I made this suggestion, I think I just referenced it wrong. So it just used what I referenced as well. Problem here as well. We'll look at that. So at this point, it's technically saved and has been wrote to the world. I think if we look at the timestamp, scripts were re-executed. Yeah, on trigger down don't exist. So technically, although I haven't kept it, I can preview its results. I can see it resulted in some errors, and then I could undo it. And then, still a saved script. It's going to recompile down here again. But point is, you can test it without keeping it. And then you could just disregard that because it has errors in it, right? But I'm going to keep this, and I might let you guys decide on how we proceed going forward. If we keep this, we see there are 2 errors that we need to fix. This one's easy enough to fix. This one's also easy enough to fix as well. And I could just fix them right now because I know how to fix them, right? But we could also assume that I don't, and we could take the route of attempting to get the AI to fix these for us. If you guys want to go down that avenue, or if you just want to proceed with like getting us to write more cool stuff and make things work. Because typically, if it was me, I would just fix these because I know how to fix them. What if I didn't, right? You want to see how much trouble it might take to get the AI to fix them? Scott says, let's ask the AI. Does anyone else have an opinion? That's 2 for AI. 3. I'll count that. All right. Looks like we're going AI route. Let's see if AI can fix this for us. Happen to know that's just spelt wrong. And I think we have to cast it as a launcher. I'm just going to see if I'm right. I just want to comment this out real quick. Yeah. So we just have to cast it as a launcher, separate from setting it to the constant. I just don't know that. So I don't know if we get AI to fix this one. We'll try. I'm pretty sure we can get it to fix this one though. But I can approach the AI in a couple of different ways. I could kind of ask it, I could right click here, of course, and say fix. I could talk about the error in chat, adding some extra context. If I knew what the context of this error was, maybe I knew like some things, and I knew enough that I could tell the AI where it needed to look in the documentation to get the proper wording for this. Then if I had that information, I might actually go this route and chat with it, giving it the extra context, telling it what I know, crossing my fingers and hope it fixes the issue for me, right? But let's say I don't have that implied knowledge and I just say fix. Yeah, I didn't think I had to do anything. Let's give it some room, see what's going on here. So he said, to fix the error, replace the on-trigger down with the correct event name that exists in the code block event, such as on-player enter trigger, if you want to trigger when a player enters a trigger. So, I mean, yes, it's right. That's not the event that I had in mind, right? So what if I want to, or actually, let's just say I want an event related to the player pulling the trigger button on their controller. So let's like be that descript with it. That's probably good enough. Let's see if we can get this fixed. So he didn't add any more wordage, but I think he did fix the problem. I'm gonna hit accept because I think it's working. Wait, what just happened? I have no idea what just happened. Let's try this again. Now it's making up stuff, such as on grab trigger down. If that's the intent, I don't think that's the name of the event. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's still not the right name. So let's take this a step further then. If we're gonna be determined to fix this, let's add selection to chat. And let's say using the Horizon definition file, find the proper event for when a player presses the trigger down on their controller. Let's word it like that. And let's, just for good measure, let's make sure we're like our core is added as context. Let's see if we can. This is frustrating me personally inside because I like just fix it. All right, so the proper event for when a player presses trigger down on their controller is on index trigger down. That is correct. This event is described in the Horizon API as invoked when index trigger button is pressed. That's accurate. So to detect when a player presses the trigger, use on index trigger down instead of, I mean, that's right. Now I can't seem to, okay, but let's ask, can you apply this change to my code? See, I'm asking the ask if it can apply change to my code. I'm actually curious to know if it'll actually try to apply it or if it'll just give me code. Yeah, I think it's just gonna give me code. Now, if it was the edit version, I think it would have just made the edit for me. So on trigger, yeah, let's accept this. Let's see what the new error is. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it made a presumption here. I mean, I understand this error and I could fix this right away, but maybe a beginner like doesn't quite understand this error, right? So what's going on here though? When we use the on grab start, if we hover over our events, we can kind of see the parameters that come with the event. This one comes with a Boolean and a player. And so we used that as we passed it on to our method. And so Copilot was like, okay, I'll do the same thing for this other code block event without like going into the actual event and checking to see that, oh, it only accepts one parameter. It doesn't accept a Boolean. It only accepts a player. We're trying to get a Boolean and a player out of it as parameters to pass. Well, we didn't try to pass the Boolean, we just passed the player. But we still tried to ask for it. It doesn't exist. So we can get AI to try and fix this too. But there is some knowledge required in order to ask AI accurately how to fix this. So, and I say that just again to drive home, like, you need to know things. AI is not going to solve all your problems. And you're seeing it in real time. I did my best to prime and prompt this thing, and it's still stumbling over what I think is stuff it should know. But, whatever. It's still helpful. So let's see. Let's just see what fix does again. Let's just hit fix. Give it a second. Like, I don't even have time to take a drink. It's already fixed. Let's just read what it says. You should update the callback function to match the expected signature of player only. Adjust your handler accordingly. Perfect answer, fixes the problem. It knew exactly what to do. That one we're done with. Moving on. This one, let's just try it. The easiest thing is just to ask it to fix the problem. Let's just see what it does. I think this is accurate. You should add a check to ensure that it's defined before calling the as on it. And that's literally what I said earlier. Now, they did it in a lazy kind of way. I won't ever encourage anyone use an exclamation or a question mark in any of their code. So we're not going to do it here either. So that means that, like, we need to make sure our launcher gets defined as a projectile launcher before we can launch things from it. And typically I'll just do it right here. In this case anyway, where I'm only referencing it one time, it's fine just to say as HZ projectile launcher gizmo. And so, technically it should look like that. Copilot wasn't wrong in the way that they wrote it, but I won't leave it that way. Let's put it back. Let's leave this and let's just ask the question, because I'm curious now myself. Can you let's add a little more context. Let's highlight this code, right click, add selection to chat. Can you write these lines of code without using the question mark? Okay. I think we may end up in a loop here. Going to apply this code, knowing that it's wrong, and it's not going to accept it. Right? Right. If I right click and I asked it to fix it, put in if I think this is shorthand for like an if statement. If it exists, define it as a launcher. If it don't, make it undefined. I think this will work. This is a more complicated, I won't say complicated, it's a less readable way to write this same code that I wrote earlier. And so basically this says, set my variable to the value of this launcher. But like in addition to that, if like this comes back as true, which means it exists, right? It's a thing. It has value. Then turn it into a launcher gizmo. If it doesn't, well then just define it as undefined. And so if it's undefined, then this will fail. It'll be a false, and then it won't try to launch. But I mean, yeah, this code will work just the same as the code that I wrote to begin with. So it did fix it. I mean, that's fine. That'll work. So we've gotten it to fix both of our problems without me doing it manually. I hit save. Let's go into our game world. We may need to select our rifle, attach our gun script. Bullet trace is already linked because there was a gun script attached to it before, which is good. I'm thinking if nothing else fails, this should work. What do you know it? Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Yeah, so AI just did that, and we didn't write anything. It made some mistakes along the way, and it fixed those mistakes, right? So we're going to keep going for those who can stick around because I want to keep demonstrating some of this, right? Let's create a new gun script. Gun 2. I'm going to close this. We're going to close gun 1. So we just have gun 2. It's an empty script. I'm going to hit new chat. So we've cleared all the context from our previous chat. We've got a new script here. We're going to switch. I would spend some time on edit, but honestly, if I'm telling you guys, edit's the same thing as ask, with the exception I wouldn't have to click that button to make those changes in my script. It would have just done it for me. Instead, I want to jump ahead to agent because this is my favorite tool here lately. I want you guys to see this thing in action, right? I'm going to copy the exact same prompt that we gave the original script. But now we're in this agent mode. And actually, since we're in agent mode, we can potentially take this a step further. And we can say things like reference. Let's look at Taylor's snippets here. Let's see if he has anything. I'm going to do a control F. We're going to search for keywords like projectile. Let's see what this is. Yeah, this is basically a script that we just wrote. I could copy a link to this right now, and I could say, use this link as a reference. Whoops, that's not the whole link. That ain't gonna work. Let's come back and get the URL from the top here. So I just gave it a URL to reference. I could go even further. I could say, and ask. You may be able to do this and ask as well, but I do all this in agent anymore. We could go into the manual. I could do a control F in the manual. Could search for projectile launcher gizmo. That's probably a thing it needs to have a reference to. And so I could say use these links as reference. So now it's got just additional context outside of the Visual Studio editor, right? We did say gun.ts. We need to say gun.ts2 now. And we could reference the types folder again. No biggie. Follow the folders, types, because we do reference it in our context here. All right, so let's see what an agent does as opposed to just the ask. Searching things, finding things, reading things. Here at just a moment, I'll grab me a drink here. So it's sending little minions out and reading, right? A lot of reading, apparently. I've never seen it read so much in my life. So much reading, it's like, hey, do you want to keep reading? So it wrote the first iteration, and now it comes back and it says, component 2 now references a launcher. The type is an entity. It connects to the index trigger down event, launches a projectile when triggered. Let me know if you need any further customizations or testing. So let's slide this over and let's look at what we got. We'll go ahead and accept this to clear out this green and gray coloring, right? Looks good. In this, he's doing it in start. Okay. It's of no consequence in this particular scenario. Not a fan of the habit though. Looks good. Same thing we literally just saw in the last example. Same sort of defining of the launcher. Looks good. This is going to work. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. It did it right out the bat. It didn't need any of the extra work that we had to throw at it in order to get it working. What do you guys think? What do you guys want to see now? What are you gonna do? We can just play around now. I think I got to the heart of it. I got the point across. So you got to see things I wanted you to see. Is there anything anyone else wants to see in particular? Is there something you think I missed? You want to see what controllers? You want to see what haptics looks like in TypeScript? Is that what you're saying, Stephen? Evan says, can you try to do something more complex? Ask AI to do something more complex. Give me an example and I'll give it a shot. Make a waterfall that's stretching it. If I might say so, you'd have to really set it up in order to ask it for a waterfall. Like you'd have to give it the components to make the waterfall, and then basically tell it how to use those components to construct said waterfall. Is the approach you'd have to take for something like that. Oh, you just want to see if AI can vibrate the controller like when the trigger's pulled. That's what you're saying. Gotcha. Evan says, make an object move to the position of where the projectile hits. Everybody says, can you make the VFX show when the bullet hits someone or something? Okay, let's that's good for now. Let's try a few of these. Let's continue to use the agent with the context we've already set up. Because it's going to continue to be able to use like this stuff, right? So we're just going to continue on. We're going to say using the creator manual, can you research controller haptics and add them to the on trigger down. Actually, let's not even ask. Just research it. Says it used 2 references, even though I didn't add any additional context, and none was really listed. The 2 references are okay. So it may not have used any of our links as reference according to its thinking here. But let's see what it does nonetheless. So it's already did some code. It's thinking about its code, and that gives you some feedback. And it's pretty confident about its code. It sees no errors. I see no errors. I think it nailed it. Um, let's move on. Squish that task, no problem. Let's see, make an object move to the position of where the projectile hits and make the VFX show. So let's, because I already have a reference to a VFX in the world, let's get that flash. Let's get it, let's see if it can do the flash animation. So I am adding a visual. Ooh, I need to think. I need to think. What is the name of the gizmo for visual effects? It's not particle, is it? It's not part. Is it particle? Gizmo? What do they call it? We'll have to look it up. If you ever need to know, come to API references, come to core classes, scroll through here and look at your gizmos. I may just be able to say gizmo. Not a trail. Yeah, it's a particle effect. Particle gizmo. Okay. Back to what we were doing. I'm adding a particle gizmo to the, what do I want to say here? Add a particle gizmo to the, I want to say properties of the gun to be activated when the trigger is pressed. That should be enough without getting too detailed or being too vague. Particle gizmo is added as an entity, and it does a play, which I think is fine. I think that's accurate. Yeah. And so now that's saving. I can come back to my gun real quick. I happen to know it's called muzzle flash. So if we come down to our script, new gun script. You can drag and drop these bad boys now. That doesn't mean you can ignore renaming your interactive elements of your world. Rename your interactive elements. But this should work, right? No reason why it wouldn't, as far as I can tell. Grab the gun, boom, boom. Yeah, it's flashing, right? So it seems to have no problem throwing these basic things. But let's get a little more complicated. Let's see just how much the agent can take. I want to set up a scenario. It's probably not going to be able to do this, but I want to we'll go back up to the top of my script. I'm gonna copy this again. I want to make sure this gets added into my response. I didn't need all of that. And we'll get my types put in just for good measure. And I'm going to say, how am I going to word this? I'm thinking of a script. It may even require the agent to create a new file, potentially, to handle like when a player gets hit. So let's even just say create a new file to handle player events for when projectile hits player. I don't know. Like I'm actually being vague on purpose at this point, and short at that. I'm wondering if it can create that next script. So it created a handler, but it connected to the wrong object to listen for that on hit. And that's all it really did. It didn't really take it much further. I'm going to push it a little bit and say, can you create the I mean, really being too vague, I think, because I don't really know what I want that player script to do. It could display a pop-up to the player that got hit, but then that's you don't need another script for that. That's too simple. I need some help, guys. Let me throw something practical but complicated at this thing. There's 15 of you. Someone's got an idea. In the meantime, I'm going to ask it, is the on projectile hit player event connected to the correct target? Just as lost as you. No, it is not connected to the correct target. It's currently connected to the entity, but this event should be connected to the projectile launcher gizmo, not the gun itself. You're absolutely correct, Copilot. Why don't you fix that for me? Yeah, what you got, Steven? We're at the end of the show. Let's just throw the kitchen sink at it at this point. He did correct it this time. He didn't know it was a problem though, till I told him. Use a CUI. CUI is custom user interface. Not impossible. The setup might take a little longer than we probably have time to play with today, unfortunately. And the reason I say that is I think in order to get it to work accurately, I'm going to need to create a basic UI example first and get that as like priming data as context for the UI. I noticed some people earlier mentioned a leaderboard. So let's add in leaderboard to this. Add one point to a leaderboard called points for each time a player is hit. After this, we may abandon this and jump over to my chess game where I've actually been using agent mode because what I really wanted you to see was a multi-step process, and it really hasn't fired off a multi-step process because we just haven't. I think it literally just did that though. It's made 2 edits in a row. So that's a multi-step process. So it made an edit, reviewed it, made some more edits, then it decided it was finished. That's what I'm getting at. That's what agent does. Not only is it like, it's also capable of reaching out, to the web and referencing links and stuff that you give it as well. Let's see. Let's accept what it gave us here. Let's take a look. So on Projectile, hit this.leaderboard, set score for player points, player hit. Wait, don't give them to the player that got hit. Give them to the player that did the hitting. That's why you need to proofread your stuff, right? No errors here, but that's wrong. Like, we don't want to reward the person who got shot. That's what it's doing. Also, we don't want to reward them. Like, this isn't rewarding them. This just keeps setting their score to 1 continuously. So we would have to set up a PPV to increment this over time. And so, you need to proofread your stuff, and you need to explain to the AI if you want it to fix these things for you, either fix them yourself if you have the knowledge, which I recommend you keep that knowledge and don't lose it to AI. But also, you can ask AI, hey, I don't think that's right. Can you double check that? Can you make sure it's not this instead? Give it as much context as possible, right? Give that man some points. You need some points. All right. So before we go, let's close this section. Let's back out of this empty world. I don't know that I'll get to show you guys much other than just the facts, which are, if we look at this script and we look at, let me just zoom this out to regular size so I'm not like being dramatic. How many lines of code do we have? It's just over 1,000. And they were all wrote by the AI. And this is a chessboard that supports 2-player chess. It supports legal moves. It supports turn-based play. And I literally just described to the AI what I wanted, gave it as much context as I thought was relevant. And then we worked together over the course of, at this point, probably been about 3 hours. We've honestly worked together, me correcting errors and helping it move along with writing all of the logic for me. It's also been a multi-file effort because now we've got a whole nother script going together to handle. I'm attempting to implement focused interaction mode. So the game actually works and has already been tested in VR. So it was a success in the sense that it wrote a game and it works. Now I'm trying to add mobile support on top of it by giving it focused interactions. And that's currently what we're in the process of working through right now, is fixing bugs with focused interaction. But this has literally been a little experiment, and I chose chess as the topic. But the purpose was to not write any lines of code and have the AI write this entire game. So far, it has, in my mind, has been a success. Now it's just about like, how far can I take this success? Will this end up becoming a published game wrote in a matter of hours, all with AI? Like, is that the reality that we're in today? Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to try to find out. Scott says, have you tried using Gemini DeepThink to give you detailed prompts for this agent? Actually, I don't use DeepThink. I do use 2.5 Pro for most of my prompting in general. And on occasion, I do ask AI for prompts to use and asking AI. But yeah, good idea. But that's it. That's my talk for today.